Hello and welcome to the Nerd Rundown podcast, where you get the rundown on the latest movie, TV show, comic, and gaming news. I am your host, Darren Stemple. With me today is my co-host, Eric Harrer. You can follow us on Twitter at the Nerd Rundown. Listen to us where you find your favorite podcasts like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and you could find us on our YouTube channel, which is at the Nerd Rundown. How you doing, Eric?
Doing well. Doing well.
Ready for episode 1?
I am
The Phantom Menace?
Super psyched. If it turns out like the Phantom Menace, we're in trouble. We've got problems already.
Yeah, well, maybe with time, like the Phantom Menace with time has maybe gotten aged a little better than it should have.
Perhaps, but I hope that 45 minutes into this podcast, we know who the main character is, which the Phantom Menace. In fact, who is the main character of the Phantom Menace? That's
Newt Gunray, right?
Yeah, right. I thought it was either him or perhaps it was Darth Maul. Like that's just who we're gonna go with. Should have been Darth Maul.
Should have been Darth Maul.
Yeah, we just go with that guy. So.
Dropping some real nerd stuff real early on here.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. Episode 1, Phantom Menace. Life-changing event, 1999.
That's when I really learned about disappointment in life.
Don't get your hopes up in life, people,
Yeah.
especially for episode 1.
I was young when it came out. I thought optimistic. I thought the world wasn't my oyster, and George Lucas just
shot that down, huh?
Shot it down.
Yeah, I know it.
And then
I remember walking out of that theater thinking that was maybe the most badass movie I've ever seen, and then your brain processes it and you're like, What was that?
Right.
What did I just watch?
Well, and that's the fundamental problem with basically the first 2 of those 3 was the spectacle, because that was like one of the first you had like Jurassic Park or whatever, but that was like the first CGI super heavy movie where you went away and you were like, oh my gosh, that was amazing because of all the cool CGI stuff in it, and then later on you were like, wait a minute, that movie was completely devoid of any plot, of any character development, of anything, and you're like,
that makes sense.
This was terrible. This is terrible. But it was cool. It was eye candy.
Yeah, it was like what you always say. I've heard you say it numerous times. George Lucas showing off his new shiny toy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good start to the podcast. Getting off topic, like we will do that, people. Okay, so bear with us.
That's what we do best.
We are going to get to the rundown. We will educate you as much as we possibly can. With this being episode 1, I thought it'd be pertinent for us to give you a little intro to who your ears are gonna be listening to here moving forward. So, with that being said, I'm gonna hand it off to you first, my co-host, my buddy, Eric Harrer.
Sure. Yeah. So
tell us who you are, why you are, and how you are. And why is Gomorrah?
How far back do we want to go? Well, see, when a man and a woman love each other, no. So, So my name's Eric Harrer. My wife and your wife were roommates in college. They went to high school together. In fact, I went to high school. Yeah, they were high school sweethearts. Yep. And so. You and I met each other when you guys were dating, I think, or engaged, I guess, or whatever, and got married. And so, you and I have kind of
we met in a garage,
right? Yeah, we've kind of developed this friendship and relationship, over the years, and a lot of it has revolved around pop culture stuff that we have in common that we really, really enjoy. And so, growing up as a kid. Movies and TV shows were like huge in my house. We loved movies, TV shows, all that stuff. In fact, my first memory of a movie was my dad took me to see in 1982. Even though I had been to movies before, my first real memory that I have is in 1982. My dad took me to see Star Trek II. The Wrath of Khan, and it was amazing, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, and still one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just it's an absolute masterpiece, especially after the disaster that the original movie was. But
turned it around really quick.
Yeah, they did. They did just a really tremendous job with that one. So always had a love of science fiction movies, of popular culture stuff, things of that nature. My wife and I, we both worked at a video store in high school, and it was great. We had a great time, to the point where we both loved movies so much that we built a small movie theater in our basement.
Yeah,
because
it's amazing.
Because it was just something that we wanted to kind of focus on. So movies, TV shows, things like that. It's a huge influence on me. From the comic book perspective, I've enjoyed comic books. I had a few when I was younger. I would read them. Mainly revolved around Batman.
Sure.
And I loved Batman as a kid. I loved the Punisher. When I got a little bit older, I started to really enjoy the Punisher series. And then
so you like murder?
I guess.
There's no right answer to that question.
I'm not quite sure. I like to think that he's an enforcer of justice.
Yes,
very much for
so.
people outside of the law. So I enjoyed the Punisher series. I like the Iron Man series too. I mean, we've had this discussion before privately, but I've always enjoyed those because they were normal men.
Yeah.
Batman is, while being super rich, is just a normal guy.
Yeah, no powers.
He's obviously listed as one of the greatest detectives of all time. So, which kind of gets lost in the movies. I don't ever think do that as good a justice as they should.
Yeah.
Though The Dark Knight did a pretty good job of kind of doing that, but I think they still could have fleshed that out a little bit more. Same thing with the Punisher. He's just a dude.
This is getting away from you.
Yeah.
Just supposed to be about you, not Batman.
Well,
or
I know.
Punisher.
That's probably, yeah. So anyhow.
It's just getting off topic here.
Yeah. Well, it's just another thing I do.
We just want to know about you, Eric. We know about Batman.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
that's pretty much it. We've got a lot of pop culture stuff in my history, and I've enjoyed, like I said, science fiction stuff. Big Star Trek fan, Star Wars fan, all that stuff. So
if you had to say what kind of nerd you are.
Yes.
Not were. What
Yes.
kind of nerd you are? What kind of nerd are you, Eric?
Well, I would say that I'm a casual nerd.
Okay.
So I would be I would consider myself to be a casual nerd. So I'm not super deep into a lot of stuff, but I'm superficially out there. I'd say I know a pretty fair amount, but there are experts out there, people who dig in way deeper into the lore of different things. So
Yep.
I couldn't tell you what happens on Deck 12 of the Enterprise, starship, but I'm sure there's people out there that could tell you what happens on Deck 12.
Do we want to know?
I don't know. Maybe we don't want to know what happens on.
Yeah, it might
on
be one
Deck
of those
12. Deck
things.
12 could be where the dark things.
I mean, you say it fast enough, you could really mistake it for something.
Yes, that's true. So
okay,
yeah,
so casual nerd.
So
I
how about
like it.
you? So how is
Who am I?
Yeah, who are you?
Why am I?
Yeah, why are you here?
Yeah, so I'm Darren Stemple. Where do I start? Well, I usually like to start with kind of where I was introduced to my nerddom, and that's back when I was very early age, maybe 5-6 years old. My grandpa introduced me to comics. He showed me his comic collection. First one that really popped for me was Avengers 4, which was the introduction of Captain America. The first three volumes of the Avengers comic didn't have Captain America, so he's actually not a real founding member. It's kind of funny, misnomer. Yeah, I was thinking misnomer, but sometimes I don't know if my words are the right words. Anyway, so it's a big misnomer that Captain America's a very much a founding member of the Avengers. He's not. He joined in episode 4. I said episode 4, volume 4. Anyway, it's a great comic. It's on my comic wall. It's one of those comics that just pops. And from there, I was pretty much hooked on superheroes. I really liked Superman as a kid, Spider-Man, Batman. But my two favorites were Captain America and Cyclops from the X-Men. Those were my guys. Spidey's a close third. And if you ask my mom what's her favorite memory of me, it's me running around our apartment complex as a kid in our costumes. Must not have made too much of an impression on her after that, but I'll go with that as a good impression. And so, me running around in my costumes as a kid, it's always just kind of stuck with me that this is my thing. As I've grown older, I thought I'd grow out of it, and I didn't. I've only grown to love it even more, especially with how the world is nowadays, where, nerds are running the world through technology and through pop culture and through whatever you might want to think about. Nerds are probably behind it in today's world, and I'm definitely more of a superhero nerd. I do like my space stuff. I do like my fantasy stuff, like Game of Thrones. But when it comes down to it, I'm always, Star Wars and superheroes are my thing. And so that's where my nerdum comes from. That's what kind of nerd I am. And I wanted to start this podcast because for a long time I've asked myself, if I wasn't in sales, what could I do? What would I do? What should I do? That kind of, inherent question everybody asks themselves. And it really hit me back in November when I was let go unexpectedly due to COVID-19 and all that good stuff. But it was a good time for reflection for me, and so I kept asking myself that question, and I listened to a lot of podcasts at the time and still do. And it's been a question for me that it just popped into my brain a few years ago. As I was transitioning to a new job, I was like, well, if I wasn't going to be in sales, what could I do? And I just never had that answer. But over the course of the years, I've always been a go-to guy for knowledge on this kind of stuff. With Game of Thrones blowing the world up, every Monday morning after Game of Thrones aired, I would get 8 to 10 people at least, right off the bat, like, oh, did you watch that episode? Who's this? What happened? And so they actually really needed that context, and I was happy to give it to them, and made me feel important, but not really. Not important. It's not important, people, okay? Game of Thrones is not important. Context around it's not important, but I love giving that kind of context. And now when you look back at the last 6 months, the biggest shows in the world, The Mandalorian, WandaVision, and now Falcon and Winter Soldier, those are all very much my right up my alley.
Yeah.
And so it just clicked for me one night as my wife asked me about a show we were watching, and I told her, oh, that happened in season 2, episode 2. And she's like, how do you remember that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, that's just how my brain works, unfortunately, for everybody around me, fortunately for me. So it was like the light bulb moment of a lifetime where I was like, I want to start a podcast.
Yeah, so it gave you that situation, and typically life can do that. It'll give you clarity. It gives you a moment of clarity where everything kind of cuts through, and you find out exactly, okay, well, what do I want to do? What would I want to do if I could do anything? You know. So yeah, no, that's great. So 2 questions then for you. The first question I have is, do you still run around in the costumes around the house when nobody's looking, or maybe when there are people looking? So, because that is your mom's favorite memory. Do you?
Yes, I have some costumes.
Okay. All right.
It's not been out of the ordinary for me to put them on.
We're outside of Halloween, so
right.
Okay, all right. Because last year for Halloween, I did, or I guess that was the Halloween before last. I did Fat Thor is
from Endgame.
And I got to tell you,
it was great.
It was a real
hit.
It was a real hit. So
it was a great costume.
Yeah. So, okay, so then kind of reflecting back the question you asked me, you've kind of answered to it or alluded to it, but what would you say is, what kind of nerd would you say you are?
Yeah. Again, I don't know if there's like a term for it, but I'm more of a superhero nerd. I really enjoy the hero nerdiness. So maybe I'm a hero nerd.
A hero nerd.
Yeah,
Okay.
some people say I have a hero complex.
Yeah.
I'd say, what's wrong with that?
No, it's the world needs heroes.
That's right. Yeah, and so my favorite like I said, are Captain America and Cyclops, and close third is Spidey. I think the greatest hero of all time, in my own opinion, is Luke Skywalker. And you'll never be able to, especially after Mandalorian Season 2, you'll never be able to tell me otherwise.
Well, his character, the arc of that particular character is pretty spectacular. I mean, he starts out as a very whiny farm boy, and then if you do encompass the whole Mandalorian, season 2 finale, you're like, wow, okay, that's really him at his absolute prime. And I think some of the newer movies I don't think did him much justice and all that respect. But I think the Mandalorian may have kind of saved that reputation a little bit. So
yeah. Well, I a lot of what I love is the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell created the hero's journey. It's a certain character arc for heroes, and nobody follows it better, in my opinion, than Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so the hero's journey is something that we may delve into.
Yeah, I think that's something we should definitely explore, because I'm curious what it is, because I know what drives me to be attracted to the hero type person, but and overall that type of archetype person. I'm curious. We should definitely kind of flesh that out as time goes on, and maybe another episode we'll talk about it. But yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what attracts you, what drives you towards that. Towards that.
I think I'm feeling it here with this podcast a little bit. Not that I'm calling myself a hero for this podcast, but there's the call to adventure, refusal of the call. There's the supernatural aid. There's the crossing of the first threshold, belly of the whale. So we can get into that at some point during our specialty podcast. But the hero's journey is definitely something that you, as the general audience, may not know about, but it's there in just about every hero's journey. So, okay, so that's who we are.
It is.
Like it, love it, whatever.
There is a little more to us,
maybe,
but
yeah,
we'll work through that.
I mean, most people that are listening to us right now already know us.
Yeah.
So, we don't have the new fans yet.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, hi, Mom.
Thanks.
So, what is the Nerd Rundown? Let's talk about that real quick, and then we're going to get to the actual rundown. Okay? So, the Nerd Rundown is this podcast that is designed to give you all an outlet for, not an outlet. It is a podcast that is designed to help you as the general audience, or even as the nerd audience, gain some context, some extra knowledge, get a nerd perspective on some of the movies, TV shows, comics, gaming, whatever it might be that we're talking about. We'll give you our perspective from our nerd perspective, which is what we talked about earlier. So Eric's the more casual nerd, and I'm more of the hero-y nerd. And I'd say we're, that's why we're going to make a good team. We're on different ends of the nerd spectrum, and we'll be able to give you all that added insight into the nerd world.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that, when we talked about it initially, I wanted to make sure that we were kind of educating, enlightening people, and giving them a little bit of insight into maybe things that they kind of gloss over or whatever. Everybody's busy. We all have busy lives. So, if maybe there's a series that you don't know about that might be coming out, or if there's if there's a series going on, like right now, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is out. We just watched the episode 4 last night, and holy smokes! I mean, a lot happened in that, and so we could unpack. We could unpack that. Just some exciting stuff. So there's lots of stuff to talk about. And I'm looking forward to having you kind of help me, and I think help the listener get that added context, and there's certain things, and I think over the life of the podcast, as we kind of grow and expand, we'll want to get feedback from our listeners. What questions do you have? So I think later on we'll have like a fan question thing. So if you guys if you guys have questions, hit us up at our Twitter account. Hit us up on in the comments and stuff, and just let us know what is it that you want to hear. What do you want to learn about? So we can try to expand on that. So I think overall I'm looking forward to getting to know our listeners. I'm looking forward to spending time with my buddy and hopefully make each other laugh. I mean, that's really
it's probably what it's just going to turn out to be.
Right,
Sorry,
it's
people.
Just him and I laughing at each other. So
making nerd references that
yes.
maybe only a few people get. Okay,
Right.
with that being said, we do have some great things planned for the podcast. It's not going to just be the rundown every week. We will do specialty episodes. We're going to review the big TV show of the week, or whatever might be going on during that time. We've got some specialty episodes that we've got planned. Eric's really wanting to do a UFO 101 kind of class that we'll get into at some point. We will do a revisited series. We'll look back. Basically, maybe the one reason why I started this podcast, I want to revisit Lost at some point and talk about Lost as a TV show, and just cool little episodes like that. So we're going to be doing a weekly podcast that we give you the rundown on the current news going on in this kind of world, and then we'll have specialty episodes that we'll release from time to time. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be exciting.
With that being said, how about we get to the rundown?
Yeah, first up on the agenda, I think, is we're going to talk about this week. Disney dropped Epic, and I don't throw the word epic around all that often. They dropped an epic trailer for the new Tom Hiddleston TV series coming up, Loki, and it looks fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Just fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those trailers that came out of the clear blue. Nobody knew it was going to drop, and then Monday morning it dropped, and everybody I've talked to loved it. People that aren't really into the series or into the nerd world loved it, and some people I've talked to were like, okay, it looks okay. So, obviously you're going to get that. You can't please everybody. What is this TV show? So obviously, with the new phase of Marvel launching with WandaVision, this is the newest set of streaming shows that Marvel Studios is releasing. It comes from Avengers Endgame, where in that time heist, when they went back in time to 2012 in the Battle of New York, after the Battle of New York was over, they were taking Loki, who was their prisoner at the time. The hijinks ensued of the time heist, and the Tesseract got kicked out of the case, and it, of course, lands right in front of Loki, which is, again, this is not the Loki from Thor Ragnarok. It's not the Loki from Thor 2, The Dark World, who's had this amazing character arc of redemption and a bit of anti-hero-ness. But he definitely redeemed himself, and then he was killed by Thanos in Infinity War. And then so that Loki that we know is dead.
Right. So when that happens, when the Tesseract lands at his feet, he's just been defeated by the Avengers, and Hulk has smashed him into an oblivion and
as a
refers
puny
to
god.
him as a puny god. Yes. So he's
still kind of a jerk,
kind of a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
He hasn't learned his lesson yet.
Right.
He has learned defeat, which will help. But anyway, he picks up the Tesseract, and he immediately transports where we don't know, but we do know at some point the Time Variance Authority picks him up. And if you watch the trailer if you haven't. The Time Variance Authority controls the proper flow of time. Pretty important words there, proper flow of time. And so they say in the trailer, you picked up the Tesseract, which then messed with the flow of time, and we're needing you to fix it. So what this show is going to be is it's going to be another time heist, which is great because I love time heist shows. It's going to be Loki going throughout the events of history, and you see some of these events in this trailer. You see him impersonating D.B. Cooper. And if you don't know what D.B. Cooper is, D.B. Cooper hijacked a plane from Washington, D.C.
Robbed a bank, right? He robbed a bank first and then hijacked the plane with cash.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was going to say they're not going to give him the cash on the plane.
Right.
Yeah, so he robbed a bank, hijacked a plane, jumped out of the plane, and has never been found.
Right.
Obviously, in this show, they're going to give a fictional story to that, which is great. But if you've watched the other Loki trailer, he jumps out of the plane and Heimdall transports him back to wherever. Anyway, so I think that's really cool. You get to see Loki at Pompeii.
Yeah.
So at the end of the trailer, he's kind of doing his Loki stance in front of Pompeii as the volcano's exploding. So we get to see, Loki travel throughout time and mess with actual events, which will be really cool to see them integrate that into the show.
Right. Yeah. He's well, and Tom does such a great job with that character because he's
a phenomenal actor, is what he is.
He's a really great actor, and he does such a great job of playing that you almost con man type thing where you believe him. I mean, Loki's the god of mischief.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So and he does a great job of playing that. He's obviously
just mischievous.
He's a handsome guy, and he's very charming and very charismatic, and so he gets people to do stuff or is easily manipulates people.
Yeah.
I love the scene in I think Ragnarok where he's pretending to be King Odin, and you get
the Matt Damon,
the
play, the whole Sam Neill, Matt Damon,
and the when he looks down and he cusses, right in that scene where he realizes Thor's right there. He's like, the game is up. The absolute game is up. So his whole character is really fun, and I think the thing that makes the thing that's going to be exciting about this whole thing that Marvel has is, we've gotten deeper dives into, Iron Man. We got a deep dive into the origin story, and we get to know that. So the primary Avengers, they get their due, they get their justice, they get their characters fleshed out. So we know all about Captain America.
Yeah.
We know all about
Thor,
about
Iron
Thor
Man.
and Iron Man, but this gives us an opportunity to dive deeper into these sub characters, that maybe when you watch them at the time, you're like, I don't really care what this guy's backstory is. But the more you watch,
when you watch Age of Ultron, you're like, Wanda was just kind of there in the movie. Right. Quicksilver was there, just kind of in the movie. Vision was pretty cool, but still just kind of there. And we've had this discussion before, and this is one reason why I'm really loving these shows. To build off of what you just said, is it's really enriching the character. It's enriching the legacy of the character. It feels like the monthly release of a comic book, each episode that you would get. So I love what Marvel Studios is doing, and I'm really looking forward to this next show that they've got set for streaming. It comes out June 11th. If you tune in for one thing, tune in for Tom Hiddleston, but then there's also some great supporting cast in there, like Owen Wilson as Mobius M. Mobius. Just his dry wit is going to be so good, opposite of Tom Hiddleston. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great show. It's going to have a lot of mystery. You might ask yourself, well, who's going to be the bad guy? We don't necessarily know. The big theory right now is if you watch the trailer, you hear him talk about a variant Loki, and that's, again, because our Loki is dead, the Loki we know. So this is a variant Loki from a variant timeline, and it's going to be it's possibly going to be Loki battling other variant Lokis from other timelines.
Oh, interesting.
And maybe the main Loki is going to be the female Loki.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see because, the way it's explained in Endgame is you go back in time. It can the create alternate realities, and that's what we're going to get out of this. So I'm excited for that.
Time travel can get complicated. You start forking off and going in all these other different directions.
Well, and they explain it in game where you remove one stone, it messes with the flow of time, and then they even say it again. You remove the tesseract, so that messed with the time, and so you even see a shot of a branch timeline, and you can see the branches going off on different directions. So it's going to be, WandaVision was great because it's real mystery, like what's going on. Falcon and Winter Soldier is more action-packed, buddy cop, like straightforward, although some of the stuff going on that show is phenomenal.
It's kind of a spy thriller.
Yeah, political spy thriller.
Yeah.
And this will be more time heisty, travel through different events in time and watch Tom Hiddleston just chew every scene he's in. So
I think we'll get. I think with this one, it looks like we'll probably get a movie, kind of a Monster of the Week type, episodes, or we'll get
like time travel event of the week.
Right. Yeah. So you get you drop him into these different situations and then just kind of see how he does, and overall there's but we'll see. I don't know. I'm really excited I'm hoping that Owen Wilson drops at least one or two wows.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a few wows.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. His straight man to Loki is gonna be really, really good, really good. I'm excited for it. So then I think next up was we wanted to talk about Warner Brothers.
Yes. So here's the rundown on this. So Warner Brothers is returning to two theatrical releases in 2022 for certain movies, i.e. The Batman starring Robert Pattinson and The Flash starring Ezra Miller, who just came out of the Snyder Cut as like the hit of that movie. And that movie, I'm looking forward to that movie because that's going to be adapting the Flashpoint comic run, which in the DC comics reset the whole storyline into the New 52. If you've heard that term.
I haven't, so we'll have to dig into that. I think as things go further along.
For sure.
I did see where it looks like Christian Bale might be back.
We'll dive into that more because there will be plenty of time to talk about it. There might be a Michael Keaton Batman appearance.
I've heard Michael Keaton. I've heard.
They're wanting to do the alternate reality type thing which is what Marvel Studios is doing right now. Anyway, why is this important? This is important because at the beginning of this year, Warner Brothers, who's owned by Time Warner Cable, AT&T, right? Something like
Time
that.
Warner, Time Warner.
So they announced that they also own HBO Max. They announced that every movie in 2021 will be simultaneously streamed on HBO Max as well as get a theatrical run, which in turn really pissed off the directors and movie people. For Warner Brothers, for example, the big man himself, Christopher Nolan, who tweeted out one day, you wake up or you go to bed thinking you work for the best movie studio in the world, and you wake up seeing that you work for the worst streaming service in the world.
Yeah.
So that was pretty big news. And so this is important because, again, they're going back. I mean, obviously, a lot of this had to do with the pandemic and the way the world is nowadays. But this is important because some movies are just made for the theater. And seeing them at home is great, and having access to that is great. But you got to – I'm not going to not watch a Batman movie, in theaters.
Yeah, you have to see that on the big screen. I mean, there are things, we'll talk about a little bit later. There's a couple of things that are going on right now, but yeah, I mean, these are movies that you need to see in the theaters.
Yeah.
So when the directors film them, they film them with the expectation that you're going to go to a theater, you're going to see them. I understand the business decision that Warner Brothers made, where it's, hey, we still got bills to pay, we still need to do these things. Plus, they wanted to kick off, the HBO Max streaming setup, because basically that's where everybody feels that the future is going to be. I don't see, and I just can't see there being so many different subscription services. I mean, there's only so many subscription services that people can subscribe to. So everybody can't have their own subscription service and then expect everybody to do it, but to put into it. So Disney obviously has a great setup. I think Warner Brothers has a great stable of franchises in their back pocket to where they could probably make it work as well. Some of these other ones, I don't know. I don't know that you can bank on it. Paramount might be able to with the Star Trek series. I'm hoping that they'll be able to figure that out. But all in all, I get the business decision. I think this is a great decision to go back to theatrical release stuff. I really do.
And to clarify, it's theatrical only.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the right move. I really do. So I think for what they were doing at the time, if you want to do a streaming service and during COVID, and we still want people to see some stuff and kind of have exclusive looks at things. The Wonder Woman release, Wonder Woman 84 that dropped. They tried to drop success. It. Yeah, they tried to do it. It had a little bit of success, but I think all in all, I think that this is probably the right move, and I think we'll see this kind of go back. For one thing, movie theaters they bring in a lot of cash for these. Oh,
this is where the real money's made is in the theatrical run when you get Avengers Endgame making nearly $3 billion. Right. So that's important. The movie, like you said, you grew up loving movies, going to movies. Same in my family. This is where our love of movies came from. Is going
culture.
To the.
It's part of our culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a big part of our culture, and I think. And you can even see when you look at overseas money, which is where a lot of stuff is going. The Chinese culture seems to really enjoy going to the movie theaters as well, because they're spending tons of money to go to the box office and watch these big theatrical stuff. So
big time.
So I think it's the right move. I'm excited for it. I think it's only going to benefit everybody, and hopefully it'll calm Christopher Nolan down, and he can
make a good movie again.
Make another good movie.
Cool. Okay, so it's good to see that Warner Brothers is coming around on going back to theatrical runs only, and with that only helps other movie studios realize that they need to do that as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that we'll probably talk about as time goes on, but I think one of the things I am concerned about is some of the studios signed exclusive release rights with certain franchises of movie theaters, so only Regal cinemas are going to see certain ones.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details.
Yeah,
on
we'll
that.
have to look into the detail on that, because I was really kind of surprised that seems to be interesting to me. But yeah, so we'll see. I think it's a good move. For sure.
Okay, next on the agenda, Netflix. You know what Netflix is, right?
I've heard of them. They have.
It's a small time company.
Small. Do they? What do they do? Are Netflix? Do they do like the picture books where you just
something like that?
Flip the pages.
Yeah, something like that. Just flick through it. Anyway, Netflix, the big streaming service, has acquired the streaming rights to Sony movies after their theatrical run. Okay. So, for example, movies like Morbius, which is the new vampire movie, which is set in the Spider-Man universe starring Jared Leto. It also has a confirmed appearance of Michael Keaton from his character in Spider-Man Homecoming, the Vulture. So that they give some interconnectivity within the Spider-Man Sony universe, which is also connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we'll get into that at some point because that is definitely a story there to be told. But also, another movie like that goes under this is the Uncharted movie, which is very much has a lot of hype behind it, with Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg playing Sully. Did you ever play the Uncharted game?
I did not.
Oh man, yeah. Some of the best games. Uncharted 2 is still one of the best games of all time in my mind.
Yeah.
So this covers across, multiple genres of, video games and movies. But anyway, it's important to know that, once they're done with their theatrical run, you'll find them on Netflix probably, 3 to 6 months after the run.
Yeah.
But that's big news because Netflix, their content hasn't been the strongest of late, and I think they're starting to hear the noise behind that.
Right.
And so they went out and they made a deal with Sony to get those exclusive streaming rights, which is exciting for fans, especially that's connected to the anything connected to Marvel Studios is exciting. So
yeah. Well, I mean, which kind of goes back to my earlier point, which is that you've got all these different streaming services, and so Disney is going to claw back all of their content from Netflix if they haven't already. I think I think there was still some stuff out there by contract or whatever, but Disney's going to try and claw back all their stuff. Warner Brothers will claw back all their stuff, and so that leaves Netflix with not a lot of options for stuff. So they're going to have to start generating their own or sign these exclusive deals.
Yeah.
Because Sony's tried their own hand at stuff, and they haven't really been all that successful. They've obviously got the PlayStation lineup. They had the awfully named PlayStation TV or whatever it was.
View or something.
Yeah, and it's like, which I actually was a subscriber to, and got so tired of having to say, hey, you subscribe to PlayStation TV. Well, I don't own a PlayStation. Well, you don't have to own a PlayStation. Like, if I have to have this conversation, your marketing is terrible.
And that was I'm talking about misnomers. Everybody thought that you had to have a PlayStation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, no, it's yeah. Anyway, so big news there.
So how does Venom fall into that? Because I know
so Venom is part of that Sony Spidey universe.
Okay.
So he's connected to this universe with Morbius and with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but he will not be making any Marvel Studios appearances.
Okay.
So it's connected, but it's not connected.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I enjoyed the first Venom one. I think they're planning on doing a sequel.
Yeah, in fact, Venom 2, some Carnage, that comes out this year, and with Woody Harrelson as Carnage. And
that was pretty cool at the end. That was pretty cool.
Okay, moving on to the next piece of news. We've gotten some Ahsoka TV show news here. So if you watched The Mandalorian Season 2, you saw a new character brought into that world. She is not a new Star Wars character. She was kind of the hit of the Clone Wars TV show, the animated TV show with the Clone Wars. So Ahsoka Tano, she's played by Rosario Dawson. Amazing. She did a great job bringing that character to life in that episode from The Mandalorian. But it's been confirmed that Grand Admiral Thrawn is the big bad, and that she'll be going after Grand Admiral Thrawn and a character by the name of Ezra Bridger, who is also from the animated shows Rebels, I think it is. Yeah, that's the one I haven't got to yet. I'm going through Clone Wars right now with Penny, my daughter, and it's so good. Anyway, so this is awesome because anybody who is any Star Wars fan knows exactly who Grand Admiral Thrawn is and how he was the big bad of the Star Wars books of the extended universe. Timothy Zahn wrote an incredible Grand Admiral Thrawn series. I think it was titled Thrawn, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Thrawn trilogy.
The Thrawn trilogy.
Yep.
So he was recently brought to life. So let me take a couple steps back. There was this extended universe that this whole story line of books that happened after Return of the Jedi, before Disney bought Star Wars. This is what I grew up with. This is what you grew up with, thinking what happened after Return of the Jedi. And Grand Admiral Thrawn was the big bad of that extended universe, much like the Emperor was for the what we thought was just the original trilogy.
Right.
And then Disney bought the Star Wars property, and they decided that they didn't want that extended universe to be canon, and they now call it Legends. And so a lot of Star Wars fans were pretty upset when that was announced because, I mean, the Thrawn trilogy is some of the best storytelling in Star Wars history.
Right.
And we were wondering if we'd ever get Thrawn as a potential villain in the Star Wars universe. Well, of course, they make these other movies, the 7, 8, 9. I don't even want to call them by their name. Not very good. We get no Thrawn in that. In fact, we get more Emperor Palpatine. And then Rebels brings in Thrawn. So
Right.
Thrawn is a genius strategist, and he learns as much as he can about his opponents and defeats them in that way, and he's such a good villain. So what's great is the Star Wars TV shows that are happening, Mandalorian, what's to come, Ahsoka, and there's some other ones in there, might be setting up for them all to kind of maybe come together at some point to battle Thrawn,
Right.
which is super exciting.
Yeah, that should be a great development. His character in the book series was obviously the big bad in that trilogy. He kind of takes over after the Emperor is killed, and the Empire itself is somewhat scattered and all over the place. He takes command and kind of reconstitutes the Empire and continues to threaten, the freedom of the galaxy, which was really exciting. So when they decided to kind of scrap all that was pretty disappointing, like you said, to a lot of the fans, and very controversial, as well as I think a lot of fans. It was a precursor to the bitter taste we were going to get for the rest of the stuff.
Right.
So
red flag right off the bat.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I think, versus what they did with like the Star Trek reboots, where they said, everything that happened in that stuff happened, and you can have all those memories with Leonard Nimoy, and you can have all those memories with William Shatner, and all those characters. We're going to fork a separate timeline off, and you're going to have all new adventures with this whole new cast, and everything that happened before happened, but then all this new stuff is also happening. So that the beauty of time travel kind of cuts through and makes it easier for you to do stuff. So I think, watching Star Wars kind of come apart at the seams there for a little while. They made some pretty bad decisions, but I think they're kind of coming back around with the success of The Mandalorian, with the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think with this series here with Rosario Dawson, I think they've got an opportunity to really kind of save this whole setup, and
sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I think there's more. I think we're coming out of the dark times, so to speak. The dark times of having no Jedis and having no real good Star Wars stuff, to where we can come back and be like, hey, they've got some good stuff.
You should watch Star Wars.
Yeah, right. You should watch Star Wars again.
Absolutely.
And I think the one thing that's really helped them, at least with The Mandalorian, is to go back to, they don't have gigantic budgets.
Right.
With these movie series, they get these gigantic budgets, and everybody wants their hands in the pies, because they want to be the ones who say, "Oh, I was the reason why this series was successful."
Right.
Whereas Jon Favreau and his team have come in, and they don't have these giant budgets, so they've got to write an episode where I think the episode in season 1 where they have an AT-ST that you never actually see. It's only a shadow in the dark. It attacks in the middle of the night. So you never actually see the AT-ST itself. It's dark.
Oh,
and it's lit up.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, we don't have the budget.
Yeah.
We don't have the budget to put an actual CGI AT-ST here.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and do the best we can, which is give you the impression that this thing is sitting out there, and it worked.
And it worked.
It worked brilliantly, because I don't care. I don't need to see that AT-ST to understand that it's a threat.
Right.
To understand, what's going on with it. So I think it forces them to go back to where the original Star Wars was. It was a low budget. It was not a high budget movie. I mean, they had a good amount of budget, but you still
a lot of practical effects.
But you had to do a lot of practical effects. You had to do a lot of character development, and that's I think been the problem with Star Wars up to this point. So I again going kind of relinking the theme that we talked about with the Marvel stuff, where we're going to start seeing some deeper dives into some really great characters that we maybe have never heard of before that are going to let us, and we've already seen it with The Mandalorian, I think with Ahsoka, and then I think with, obviously with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am super stoked for that one. But that's going to be a great opportunity for us to really dig deep into some great characters and to get into the Star Wars universe. So I am really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yep. I think it's going to be great. And so, this isn't 100% confirmed. This is a rumor, but I think, you could see in that episode when she fought the magistrate and she was like, "Where's your master? Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" It's pretty clear they're going that way. And so I'm excited to see who they cast as Thrawn.
Yep.
I'm excited to see everything about this new universe. I think what is important to note is you can tell that they have a plan now. They didn't have a plan for the sequel trilogy. They just went by the seam of their pants, and it totally shows.
Right.
Follow what Marvel Studios is doing.
Yep.
Marvel Studios has things planned out 5 to 10 years in advance, and
Absolutely.
they follow their plan.
Yeah. You don't have to have the dialogue written 10 years in advance.
Right.
But you've got to know your character arc.
Yeah.
You've got to know where the story is going to go so you can weave different pieces in, and you still can have flexibility, but you need to know where you're going, and I think that was the real disappointment in that second trilogy. So or I guess the third trilogy that they
whatever it is
7, 8, 9. I just choose to forget about it.
It's gonna happen in a different alternate timeline. Right. That's dope. Anyway, okay, next. Did you see the new clip from the new Ghostbusters movie?
I did, yeah.
Oh man, I can't. Well, number one, it's got Paul Rudd in it, so I'm excited for Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
But there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out. It's called Ghostbusters Afterlife. They released a new clip from the movie where Paul Rudd is in a shopping grocery store.
Yes. Right.
What are those things called?
Right.
Where we get our groceries. So he's in a grocery store. He walks by the marshmallow area, and any Ghostbusters fan worth their salt knows exactly where that is a reference to.
Right.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And all of a sudden, these marshmallows start coming to life, and we meet the mini puffs.
The mini puffs, yeah.
Which darling scene from a funny way of saying darling, but anybody remembering the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, he was kind of cute as a big monster.
Yeah. Well, as much as a 25-story tall Stay Puft Marshmallow is going to be, as cuddly as that's going to be.
Right.
So,
yeah. Nobody steps on a church in my town.
Yeah.
Just infinite quotable movie there, but very excited for this. Ivan Reitman is directing it. Ivan Reitman Jr. Sorry, yes. Yep. Ivan Reitman Jr. is directing it. His father obviously directed the first Ghostbusters movie. Right. Did he direct the second one as well? I think somebody else did the second one.
Somebody else did the second one, yeah.
Anyway, I know Ivan Reitman's dad directed the first one. He's recently screened the movie for his dad. His dad cried after it, saying it was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
If you've seen the trailer, it's totally different tone of Ghostbusters, totally different story. But it looks like it follows the story of the grandchildren of Egon.
Right. Yeah. Who was played by Harold Ramis.
Yeah, Harold Ramis
passed away.
Yeah.
A brilliant actor.
Within the last 10 years
or
so.
5-10 years, something like that, yeah.
So his grandchildren happen upon the Ecto-1 and all the Ghostbusters equipment, and it's kind of, this world now is, it's kind of like the Ghostbusters were, they're more of, not a myth, but they're more like a, what's that word I'm looking for?
Well, I think when they're kind of a bygone era. So you
like
have,
young kids don't know about them.
right? Yeah. So there's the legend of what they were, because there hasn't really been that much paranormal stuff where the Ghostbusters were needed. Clearly the guy I can't remember who the character name was that they were talking about, the architect of that particular building that attracted that stuff.
Oh yeah.
My understanding is that he owned a mine nearby. The architect owned a mine nearby, and that's where I think the center of this ghoulish activity will be kind of brought to bear. So I don't think there's any coincidence that that's where Egon moved and raised his, had his family and stuff like that. So I think that's what had his farm, I guess, or whatever it was near that. So I did see an interview with Bill Murray talking about his role in this one, and Bill Murray can be a little temperamental, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that he was as upbeat about it as he was.
I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think it is too. He said it was really difficult. He said the shooting of the movie was really, really challenging. He even said that there were scenes where things are flying at him, while they're filming this stuff. So, which bodes well, I think, for practical type effects as well. Which I think anytime that you can do things practically, I encourage it. I think it's much better. CGI is great, and I enjoy it, but I think overall, practical effects can be very helpful and
for sure
do that. So I was really excited to see that clip was great. I think the mini puffs are going to be fantastic. I'm cautiously optimistic for this setup, but I am. The more I see, the more optimistic I'm
yeah,
feeling.
for sure. I want to see more.
Yeah.
The trailer that was released sometime last year was a good trailer. It wasn't incredible. I didn't jump out of my seat watching it, but it got some interest, and so maybe my hype meter went from 2 to 4 or something. But
right.
This gave me a little bit more hope out of it, and I obviously. I'm a Ghostbusters fan for life. I love Ghostbusters. I'll watch anything Ghostbusters. Anything after the last Ghostbusters movie with the female Ghostbusters was
I don't know. I never even saw it. So I don't know.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
People, just a little note out there.
Yeah.
Don't need to watch that movie. Okay.
Yep.
So very exciting. I love that clip. And looking forward to more of that. Okay, next bit of news, Spider-Man 4. There's a big rumor going around that Sony wants to do the Spider-Man 4 movie that never happened, that actually turned into a reboot, the Andrew Garfield movie. Anyway, going back, let me take a couple steps back. So, we had the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man series.
Right.
They did Spider-Man 3, and it was actually kind of a bomb, critically. Fan, nobody really liked it.
Right.
They were actually going to make Spider-Man 4, and the studio got really involved, and it just turned out that they were like, okay, F it, we're not going to do this. There's been storyboards and all kinds of things that have come out about what that movie was supposed to be, and it was supposed to involve the Vulture, which turns out that's what happened with the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Anyway, Sam Raimi right now is making Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness, and there's a big rumor that Tobey Maguire is coming back for Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. I think it's called Spider-Man No Way Home, but either way, who knows what this is, if there's any merit to this rumor, but it's really interesting because if we go back to the Sam Raimi Spider-Verse, how is that going to feel?
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be kind of strange because are you going to de-age Tobey Maguire?
Is it going to be a 40-year-old Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man with a real bad back or something? Who knows?
Right.
Nobody's asking for this. I think there's there's a lot of discourse in the Spidey community about who the best Spidey is and what the who the best Peter Parker is. In my mind, Tom Holland's the best Peter Parker. He's the best combination of Peter Parker and Spidey.
Yeah.
I thought Andrew Garfield was a phenomenal Spider-Man. I didn't like his Peter Parker much.
Sure.
Anyway.
This kind of confuses me because I don't understand what we're trying. I guess I don't understand what they're trying to achieve. Is this separate? Because doesn't Sony own Spider-Man?
Yes.
But they
have a deal with
him.
They have a deal with Marvel Studios.
So is this Sony trying to wrestle back this character and make it more?
That's there really isn't a whole lot to this rumor.
Yeah.
It's important for us as the Nerd Rundown to try to give you as much of a rundown on the new Spidey rumors.
Yeah.
Especially with us loving Spider-Man.
Right.
In all honesty, as a Spider-Man lover, I have no interest in returning to the Sam Raimi Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
We don't. So the new Spider-Man that's coming out in December, Spider-Man No Way Home, there's big rumors that it's going to go into the Spider-Verse and they're going to have Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man as part of the movie. It's already been confirmed that Electro from Andrew Garfield Spider-Man 2 movies coming out with Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, right, yeah.
And Alfred Molina as Doc Ock from
yeah.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 movie. So it's, I mean, you're going to bring in these villains from those Spider-Verses and not bring in Tobey and Andrew as their Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the hit that was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Everybody's knowing that there is all this huge Spider-Man verse out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see. Maybe they're throwing it out there to see what fans say and how they react to this, and maybe if they get enough interest, they're gonna pursue it more. But if they throw it out there and they say, and they start hearing the fans say, nobody wants that, then maybe they won't pursue it.
Yeah, I don't know. I going back in time a little bit, I think, prior to, we have to go back to where comic book movies were a long time ago. When that first Spider-Man movie came out with Tobey Maguire, there really weren't a lot of good comic book movies.
Yeah.
You were kind of limited to Superman, and really just Superman and Superman 2.
Yeah.
Apparently, they made a third and fourth one. I don't know.
I think so.
I think that's the rumor.
Then Batman came along.
Helped
along.
Michael Keaton
then they ruined the comic book movies for a while with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And then we took a break. Blade came out in the late 90s and really
was ridiculously good.
Yeah, set up a new form of comic book movies.
Right.
And then X-Men came out in 2000, and that really helped us return to comic book movies. And then Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, really launched the comic book movies into a new world.
Yeah.
In 2002 with that one.
Yeah, because you could realistically, you had a realistic Spider-Man in Tobey Maguire. He was.
He was a good Peter Parker.
I probably wouldn't say he's a great Peter Parker, but
he was a good.
He was good, and it did well, and I loved it. I thought the first two actually were both.
I saw the
both
second
really
one
good.
Twice on opening night.
Yeah, they both were really, really fantastic ones. Like with a lot of these, it's just difficult to make those go further. You start to get into that third film. I mean, even I think, in fact, it's just really challenging to do a third film of any series like that and have it be really, 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 really great. So so I kind of with the fans on this one. I'm not really interested.
When you watch them now, they don't age as well. Like the superhero movies of today are way better than the superhero movies of yesterday.
Right,
okay, interesting. Definitely gonna keep an eye out for more on that.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna run through these last few things really quick. I know Eric's got some Star Trek news that he's just dying to talk about. Oh. So, but I think this is important to talk about. Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla versus Kong, I have not seen, so we're not going to go into spoilers.
Yep.
I will be seeing that as soon as I possibly can.
You should.
But it is breaking pandemic box office records, which honestly is not hard to do. And
Right.
as we're getting more out of this pandemic, more people are feeling more safe to go into the
right.
theaters.
So I
but-
think as long as you have like 12 people in the theater, you broke the previous Tenet. I think Tenet only had like 11 people show up for it
Yes, that's like
worldwide.
box office record. One more person. So exciting for that monster movie verse. I cannot wait to see this movie. You saw it. You thought what? Real quick.
Loved it.
Loved it. Okay.
Loved it. Yeah. So
Cool.
so it was cool because my dad and I are actually talking about this yesterday, as a matter of fact. So my son and I went and saw it, and it was kind of neat because my dad was born in '49. And the first Godzilla movie came out in '53, and he, I think, saw it when he was a little bit older than that, but he still remembers seeing it with his dad when he was a kid. And then in, I think, '85, when I was a kid, they came out. I think I was 9 years old at the time. My dad took me to see, Godzilla 1985, and then I just took my son to see Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
And he's 5 years old. So
He liked it.
He loved it, and so generationally it was neat because it's over now 3 generations of or I guess 4 generations of family have gone to these Godzilla movies, and obviously if you know what you're going into,
right?
So we're not, and a lot of the times I kind of laugh because they try and make these. They try to make these human stories like interesting. Like
Nobody
honestly,
goes for the humans.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I really
nobody
don't
goes.
care. But they have great actors. They have some really great actors in some great spots, and they do a pretty good job of kind of moving stuff around. Although there are some characters you could really just cut them out completely and nobody would really care. But all in all, I think going back to what we were talking about earlier about Warner Brothers making their changes to the box office only stuff, I think seeing the success of this movie, because nobody was going to go, hey, what's going to be the breakout movie for this whole thing is going to be Godzilla versus Kong. That's the one everybody's going to be like.
There's probably one guy who was like pounding the table for it. He's like, I'm telling you, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one.
This is going to be the one. But I think that they're seeing that there is a pent up demand for people, and if there's any movie that calls for a giant, you watch something on the giant screen. It's giant monsters fighting other giant monsters. So,
love it.
So anyhow, I thought it was fun. It was really well done. It's a fun movie.
Don't go in with a lot of expectations on the Academy Award.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe for visual effects.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a visual effects award on that, but I don't think acting wise you're gonna. See
you don't
like
go.
That.
You don't go for that.
Yeah. So I think, but all in all, I enjoyed the movie. My son enjoyed the movie.
We're talking about this because we've had multiple rundowns so far about movie theater stuff. Right. We had Warner Brothers going back to theatrical releases. After their theatrical run, Sony movies will be on Netflix. We've talked about our love for movie theaters. So this was an important rundown to get to because it's showing us that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And go see it as soon as you can in the theaters, and I plan on it.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Is as soon as you feel safe to go to a movie theater, you should go to a movie theater because these guys are really struggling. I realize that the majority of them are theater chains, so it's not like they're owned by the local mom and pops any longer, but it's still important to go out and support your local theater, and it's still important to go out and go see these things as soon as you possibly can, because that only encourages the studios to make more and do more. So I think that's really what it is. So moving on kind of to our last bullet point that we want to talk about is our Star Trek news. So it was a pretty big week in Star Trek everything. So I think we'll you
are the Star Trek nerd here.
Well, so again,
so
casual nerd. So casual nerd, but
you can name all the captains of the Star Treks, right? Can you do that?
Well, not anymore, but probably for all of them. Because
You're more of a Star Trek. I like
Yeah.
the reboot, the J.J. Abrams rebooted Star Trek
Yeah.
1. The Star Trek 2 kind of sucked,
Yeah.
and that's my extent of Star Trek like.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you handle this rundown.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we got this week was initially we got a trailer for the 4th season of Star Trek Discovery. So no release date on this one just yet, but pretty excited to see the cast back together. Really looking forward to this season. I the first season for me was a little rough with this one, but as we've kind of gone forward, I've enjoyed it more and more. So we'll see how it fleshes out. But some big developments. There's a big menace coming that's going to kind of unite the Federation, I think, and even unite those civilizations that are maybe outside of the Federation, and really kind of bring them together. Which I'm looking forward to seeing that. We also got a release for Star Trek Lower Decks, which is a comedy. I shouldn't say comedy, but it's an animated comedy / series about. Up to this point, every Star Trek series is always about the bridge crew and how important the bridge crew is, or the engineering crew and how important those guys are. But this series actually focuses on the people who work down below. They work on the lower decks of the ship. They're not on the bridge, so they're not the ones making all the decisions. They don't understand why are we at red alert again? Why is this that type of stuff? So I'm looking forward to another season of Lower Decks. That one's pretty excited. So we got a premiere date for that, August 12th.
Is it going to be like Below Deck, the Star Trek? The Below Deck of Star Trek?
I hope not.
I hope
So
not. No,
that would be awful.
I know that people are obsessed with that show.
My wife included. So
yeah.
Yep. So another big one that for me was I'm super excited about is they talked about earlier. We talked about, and I think we'll kind of end on this here. They made an announcement about an untitled Star Trek movie that's going to be released June 9th, 2023. So Paramount talked about releasing their or kind of shifting their schedule around a little bit, and kind of get just briefly off topic, and I guess we'll probably finish it. Was they moved a bunch of Tom Cruise stuff around, so I think we'll probably finish with that. But anyhow, so we're going to get so Star Trek Discovery writer Kalinda Vasquez looks like she might be helming this one. So we're looking forward to that, to see what that untitled Star Trek movie is going to be like. Anytime we get to see stuff on the big screen, I'm super excited. And then finally, we have Star Trek Picard. We got a teaser for Star Trek Picard Season 2, which is set to debut in 2022. So the teaser was kind of cool. You get to kind of fly around Picard's office at his chateau in France. They have a lot of memorabilia, a lot of kind of Easter eggs from throughout the.
Sounds like
the
time
Picard.
is going to be a big
always
part
is.
of the show.
Yeah, always is. They always do some sort of time travel stuff that's in there. But the big one, the big reveal was at the end of the teaser, where you had John Delancey's voice come up and talking about how the trial continues. The trial never ends, and so the return of the character Q and the hopefully the continuum and stuff. So I'm excited about that. If you're a fan of The Next Generation, they introduced the Q character in the series.
Does he
premiere.
make exploding pens?
Right? No, he does not. So that's a different Q.
Better Q.
Better Q. Yeah. So although this guy he pretty much can snap his fingers and do whatever. So maybe if you wanted your
that
pen
sounds pretty
explode.
cool. Yeah, you could do it if you wanted to.
Yeah. So really, I am excited about that. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, kind of going back to Paramount's announcements, they push back the release of Top Gun 2.
Yeah. So let's separate Star Trek from Top Gun.
Yes,
here
of
a little
course.
bit.
Well, I
right?
simply do it based on
it's from they're all from Paramount. Which
Yes.
thank you Paramount for giving us all this amazing content.
Right.
So you, Eric, are a giant Top Gun fan.
Yes.
I myself am a giant Top Gun fan. I guess you could say we're Top Gun nerds.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And with that being said, the news of Top Gun now being pushed back again for whatever reason. They got pushed from a July 4th American patriotic holiday release to November 19th.
Right.
No real reason. Weren't given a real reason as to why this was done. Who knows? I think it's because they saw the most recent Black Widow trailer, which was awesome, and they were like, okay, we don't want this to go up against Black Widow, which is releasing a couple days later or maybe even just around that time.
Right.
And so they didn't want some competition for it. Whatever.
Yeah.
I've waited this long for my Top Gun 2 trailer. I'll wait another few more months, especially if it is at a point where we definitely can go to the theater and watch it, because I cannot wait for this movie.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a big screen.
Looking forward to it.
Well, and I think the longer they push these things back, the more people will be vaccinated, the more people will be comfortable going to the movie theaters, and the more people they can get into to see these
to make more money.
Yeah.
But
But it did have a cascading effect on the rest of the Tom Cruise lineup.
Yeah.
Because apparently you can only have so much Cruise.
You can only have so much.
I think there's a federal law or some sort of federal regulation that
I think we
Tom
can only
Cruise-
handle so much Tom Cruise,
Yeah,
and they know it.
You can
Now-
only have, like, every 3 months you're allowed to release a Tom Cruise
I love
movie.
Tom Cruise in movies. Obviously, Tom Cruise outside of movies, do not care for. But I love every bit of Tom Cruise except for Tom Cruise 2000 to 2005.
It's a little bit of a down.
We can cut that Tom Cruise out of our lives. Anyway, the Mission Impossible 7 got pushed to Memorial Day weekend of 2022. And Mission Impossible 8, these were supposed to be shooting back-to-back. Obviously, the pandemic didn't help with that, and they changed that storyline a bit for these two movies. It's Tom Cruise's final two Mission Impossible movies, so they want to go out with a big bang, and very excited for Mission Impossible 7. Fallout is one of my favorite spy movies of all time.
Right.
It is incredible. It's one of those background movies. You're cleaning your house, you throw it on in the background, or you're making. I was gonna say you're making dishes, you're washing dishes, whatever you're doing. It's a good background
You're
movie.
baking Play-Doh.
You're making other things.
Yes.
It's a good to have in the background. So it is. It's exciting to know that about this time next year we'll be ramping up to see more Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 7, and the cast for that is phenomenal. It's going to have, the regulars, but also some additional people, to include Haley Atwell.
Yep.
More Haley Atwell in our lives is always a good thing.
Yes.
Haley Atwell of Captain America fame, Peggy Carter. So exciting. Top Gun 2. I cannot wait for this. You and I need to go see that together.
Oh,
and,
for sure. Yep.
I wouldn't even put it past us to go see Mission Impossible 7 together.
Well, I'm actually excited. So, we're getting James Bond at the end of October.
That's right.
So,
No Time to Die.
Right.
And then
Top Gun right
and
there
then
in
Top
November.
Gun.
So the stuff is really starting to stack up.
Yep.
There's a lot of material that's in the can, and I think I'm really looking forward to the movies and stuff that are going to be released. So there's a ton of content. We are really blessed right now with some really fantastic writing, some really fantastic production, and I think success continues to breed success and drive everybody else. So we're still seeing, and you can kind of go back to, I think a lot of it has to do with HBO, and their choices early on to really drive these mini-series stuff. You had like Rome, you had all those things. I think they have really, and then on to Game of Thrones, they've really raised the bar and really put everybody else on notice that, hey, you need to be making great television because people will tune in and they will pay for it. And I think we're starting to see that with the streaming services.
Yep.
With the theatrical releases, people are not going to go see a hunk of junk.
Right.
Well, that's not true. They still go see Fast and Furious movies, but they
still keep getting made somehow.
But
they'll make them till they're in space.
It's oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I think
something for everyone.
We've really got some exciting stuff to go watch, and
we're in a golden age of TV for sure. Movies, are a roller coaster ride. I think there's something for everything, something for everyone out there.
Right.
We just live in a great time. This is why we're doing this podcast, because there is no shortage of nerd stuff coming out. There's no shortage of stuff for us to talk about. We are going to be here to give you the rundown on everything that we possibly can. If you guys have suggestions on things that you want to hear about, have us give our perspective on it.
Dive deeper,
give you the rundown on anything, we will. You can email us at thenerdrundown@gmail.com. How did I forget that? We follow us at the Nerd Rundown on Twitter. Our YouTube channel is the Nerd Rundown. So we will be releasing a lot more content to come. We will be giving you our perspective on all things nerd. And again, we are open for suggestions. All right. So with that, we're going to move to our next segment called What Are We Reading? What Are We Watching? Because Darren doesn't read. It's hard. Letters come together every once in a while for me. So I'm watching. You're reading. What are you reading right now, Eric?
Right now I'm reading a couple different books. I just started Max Brooks's Devolution.
Ooh, sounds devilish.
Yeah, it's...
Does the devil create a revolution?
It is Devolution, perhaps maybe how you pronounce it. But Max Brooks wrote World War Z, the zombie movie. So he has this is a follow up to that one, not related to it, but basically Mount Rainier explodes and drives the Sasquatch Bigfoot type character into an unsuspecting eco-friendly village of people who are just trying to live off the land and trying reduce kind of their carbon footprint, and I think a massacre ensues. So anyhow, reading that, and then I'm also reading a book called Hogs in the Sand by Buck Wyndham. It's a story about A-10s in the Desert Storm war. He actually started his career in Desert Storm and then finished it up in the other Gulf War. So
there is nothing more thrilling than hearing an actual A-10 do its thing.
The Burt.
It is sometimes I'm guessing that sometimes they just did it just to throw some fear into the enemy.
I would imagine that's probably true. I've the A-10 is probably one of my favorite aircraft of all time. It's not the sexiest, no afterburners, no stealth. It just has a giant gun on the front of it and then carries a lot of stuff that just messes people up. So anyhow, it's great. So far the book's been really, really great. He talks about about training and stuff like that, and then kind of getting over into the Desert Storm and stuff. So
cool,
pretty good book, yeah. And then as far as stuff I'm watching, we're watching Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yep. We're going to be doing our breakdown on that. We're still trying to figure out if we're going to do it on a weekly basis or just wait till this one's over, and then as we go through the timeline of events in Loki, we'll definitely be doing that on a weekly basis, but starting a weekly review of Falcon and Winter Soldier may not make a whole lot of sense when it's the fourth episode just premiered. So we'll figure that out, but
right.
We're definitely going to review it,
yeah,
whether that's on a weekly basis or at the end.
Yes, and sadly I am still hanging in there with The Walking Dead. So I am just trying to finish up this most.
We're gonna
season.
cut that part out. We don't need to put that out there that Eric's still watching The Walking Dead.
I'm literally going to be a zombie before the series finally finishes. I think was how that'll work out. But still trying to hang in there. It's rough. it's rough, but I'm committed at this point, and I'm gonna see it through. So
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So how about you? Good for you. Good for you.
So we're watching Cobra Kai right now, and it is so good.
Oh, it's great.
It's so good if you are a fan of the Karate Kid movies,
Yes.
which I loved as a kid growing up. It hits all the right nostalgic points.
Yes.
It's good even if you're not a fan of that. You didn't grow up watching it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Watch this. It's a fantastic show. It's got good characters you love, characters you hate,
Right.
funny characters. I mean, it's one of the funniest shows I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I think the kids that they've cast in this have been really, really phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know,
The
I'm
kid who
interested.
plays Miguel he's adorable. He's charismatic. He plays, different characters throughout the entire run, and
Yep.
he does a fantastic job.
His arc really is great. It's somewhat Daniel LaRusso-esque, you know, but I think because they have more time, when you've got these longer form series, you can develop that character a little bit more and kind of dig deeper into who he is, and they've done a great job with that. But they've also taken the opportunity to dig deeper into Daniel LaRusso's character and William Zabka's character, Johnny, and so it kind of flips.
He's great. He's
really
so good.
Flips everything on its head in a couple of different places where you think to yourself, okay, I've watched this movie a dozen times, and now all of a sudden it's not what I think it is.
They totally change your perspective on Daniel LaRusso, if he's a good guy or not. It's really well done.
Yeah.
So that's what we're watching right now. It's so good. I highly recommend it. We're going to have this segment here on a weekly basis if we're watching something different. If we're watching sometimes you're watching the same thing week over week. So we'll figure out, what we do there. I'm sure Eric's reading a book a day. Like, he's really smart. He's got a lot of brains. But listen, fans, people who are listening, the show is going to evolve. This is our first episode. Episode 2 is better than episode 1. Maybe. And I'm talking about Star Wars.
Empire was always better. Yeah.
Well, yeah. When you look at Star Wars, episode 5 was better. So by the time we get to episode 5, we should be
better.
hitting our stride.
Yeah.
Just stick with us.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to really giving you. We're really looking forward to giving you the rundown.
We
on
really
everything.
are, because at the end of the day, this is a show for fans by fans.
Yep.
We're fans
Exactly.
of this stuff, and that's what we want to talk about. So whatever content you guys are interested in, if there's stuff that you want to dig into a little bit deeper, and not just movies and TV shows, comic books, video games, things like that. Like Darren alluded to earlier.
Top Gun's not a comic book.
No, not at all. We want to talk. We want to talk about a lot of different things. So we've got opportunities to bring on certain guests and stuff. So if there's things that you're interested in that you want to give us some feedback.
Yeah.
Drop some comments drop some comments below.
Nerdrundown at gmail.com. The Nerd Rundown on Twitter.
Send us some stuff. We're happy to go through it, and as this, like you said, this show will evolve as we move along. But we really just appreciate everybody who's listening. We appreciate all of your time. We know that it's valuable, and we just look forward to kind of developing this show and developing the relationship.
Heck yeah, I like it. I appreciate you, buddy, for doing this with me. Thank you very, very much. I look forward to running down a lot of things with you.
I am honored. I was so pleased when you asked me to do this. So
well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And to you, the fans, you are the ones who are doing this for, like Eric said. We're doing this for the fans because we are fans, and we know there's times out there where you're watching a show, you may need some extra perspective or context, and anybody who knows me, I'm really, really big on perspective. So look forward to doing this more for you, and, stick with us as we evolve and give us some feedback. With that being said, tune in next week as we give you the rundown on more nerd stuff.
Yep.
Cool?
Look forward to it.
All right. Bye.
See ya.